Okay, the promised video on why Soros is leading these campaigns, or he's a part of it. He and these big multi-trillion-dollar corporations that wanted the TPP passed. And the reason why Tucker Carlson and many other people all over this nation have been beaten and abused, handicapped elderly people, by Antifa, anti-fascist group. Fascism is bad. They have this idea that the word nationalism is bad. Well, this is kind of crazy. Because, let's go back in time. Where does nationalism come from? Well, nationalism started with tribes, and we still basically are broken up into tribes. Tribal mentality. We still have them in all races and all segments of the population. Nobody is quite completely free of tribalism. One tribe obviously would fight against the other to take their land. And these were brown people and black people and yellow people and red people. They all did it, not just white people. They went in, they took the other tribe's land, and there you go. Tribalism is the first form of nationalism. And then you had countries, and countries would do it to other countries. And every country in the world was nationalistic. They put their country first. They flew their flag. They had pride in their country. They would fight and die for their country if they needed to. If somebody came in and tried to take their country, they would fight for it. What's wrong with that? Because there may be freedoms in their country. Their country may be, their government may be a better country than the invading country. Like, yeah, the Nazis marching through all these countries, not a good thing to spread the Nazi party through all these countries that we fought like hell in World War II to remain free, and women be protected, and have rights, and less crime. That's what we fought for. Not the oppression of the Nazis to put down any segment or any race or religion. That's what we fought for. So you've got a country, and your country is good. Your country, the women are free, gays are free. Gays are free to be gays. They're not killed because they're gay. Jews aren't killed because they're Jews. Black people are not hung because they're black. You've got a good country going on. You've got some freedoms. Well, you want to keep that country, and you want to be proud of that country for its freedoms. Another country doesn't have those freedoms. So that's where nationalism comes in. You're nationalistic. You have pride. That's pride for your country. Nazi Party is National Socialist Workers' Party. And I know the propaganda is being spread in Germany right now. My teacher, I had a Reiki teacher from Germany, one of my many Reiki teachers from Germany, and he put out a tweet of Trump saying, I'm saying it, I'm a nationalist. And he's saying, there's trouble. But you see, he should know better. He's a lot older than I am. He should know better. He should know that the Nazi Party was the National Socialist Workers' Party. Nationalism, it was a slightly different version. It was a different version of fascism that was in Italy. Actually, Italy wasn't against the Jews. Mussolini actually protected the Jews. Until Hitler came along. So being anti-fascist wasn't quite that's kind of like the terminology. It's like, what fascism are you talking about? It's a form of socialism. And FDR admired it terribly and sent the brain trust over to Italy to learn about how to implement fascism in this country, which is very, very interesting. He also appointed open member of the KKK to the Supreme Court. And with the Democrats, the Southern Democrats, they wanted to keep lynching the Jim Crow. They wanted to keep lynching the black people. And he wanted them to sign the New Deal, so he made a deal with them. He said, okay, if you sign the New Deal, I won't outlaw lynching in the South. So there's your Democrat Party. I think that's just wonderful. But anyway, so we're going to get back to fascism and communism. Soviet Socialist Republic. It's socialism. But you have this idea that the nationalism part is bad. There's a difference between Nazism and communism. Communism takes away God completely. You're completely, yes, a cell in a state. In Germany, they had a pride for being German and their origins. They believed their origins were Aryan. And in communist countries like China and Russia, they completely destroyed their history. They didn't want anybody, and they destroyed the elderly people, the wisdom of the past and the poems and the songs and the graves. They destroyed that. But still, they kind of make up a fantasy history. Just like in 1984, all these socialist countries make up a fantasy history. So they're called, the word nationalism doesn't really mean anything. But Hitler allowed you could be whatever religion you wanted to be, as long as you put the Nazi Party first, you put the Nazi Party above God. And there were certain people that would not put the Nazi Party above God. And that's where that's where there's Catholics in concentration camps, as well as Jehovah's Witnesses, as well as Jews. He killed an awful lot of people that would not put the Nazi Party first. Okay, so there's a little difference there. And then Stalin and go into there. That's also a slightly different version, but at the same time, you had to put the Communist Party first. There was no God in Mao's China or Russia. It was just the Communist Party. It was just the dictator first. The dictator becomes God, and like Lenin, they embalmed him, and so his corpse is forever looks like he's still sleeping in some way. And so they had built this big shrine, and people went in there to honor him. It's just replacing one god for another. That's all it was, really. But you had to put that first, and you were nothing to the state. You were a cell in the state. Your life meant nothing. So the globalists, we're talking about why is it that Soros very excellent video called Meddler in Chief. It seems like the videos that I make when I put Obama as a thumbnail, nobody really wants to watch. I don't blame you. But it talks about how Soros and Obama used US aid to fund Soros's campaigns around the world to destroy elections by creating chaos in the streets, riots, gang violence, to bring down the elected party and to usher in a socialist Islamic regime. And the kind of the centrist conservative or centrist free society, gone. And he's trying to bring in socialism all over the world. Socialism and globalism, basically the same thing. TPP, it all goes back to the TPP. And that's what Trump is fighting. He's fighting these people who Soros has to be a trillionaire. There's no way. He makes money on destroying currencies. Once currencies fall, he buys it up, and then he makes his trillions on the currency. That's what he does, is he destroys nations. That's what he's doing. And he's working very hard in destroying this country a little at a time. That's why he's sending out these campaigns. Get more votes, basically manufacture more votes. The felons can vote now, so give me the list of felons. We'll fill them all out, even if they do go to their homes. Oh yeah, this is who you voted for? Right, this is who you voted for. And so they kind of They've already got them filled out. Filled out. Little do these poor felons know, maybe they think, oh, I have the right to vote again, and my vote is actually going to be heard. Guess what? You're putting it into the hands of a Soros minion. Your vote is not going to be heard. Some of these guys might, you know what, I do like Trump. I'm voting because he's a good guy. I want to vote for Trump. You know what? If I were a felon, I would go to the polls and I would vote. Go directly to the polls and vote. Don't let your vote be stolen. I say this to felons everywhere. They say overwhelmingly you vote Democrat, but you know what? Trump is cut from a different cloth, and he hires people with street smarts that he doesn't care if you've been to college. If you've got street smarts, it doesn't matter. He's hired more minorities and women than anybody. That's why he got the reward from Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. And then they turned their backs on him because Obama told them to. Basically, it's probably those big corporations. The big corporations, these trillion worldwide corporations that want to dissolve all the borders of all the countries. This is what's happening. That's why they want the TPP. And the TPP goes through this view on a business in America or in any country. They can put you out of business. They run it now. There's no more country after the TPP is passed. Nobody has any right to their own business or their own property, nothing. It's done. That's why the TPP is bad. It is to usher in globalism. So these people who run around, these Antifa people who have no idea that they're actually acting like the brown shirts and Mao's Red Guard and Stalin's Red Army and the Khmer Rouge from Cambodia, who eventually the dictator kills them off, because you have to kill them off, otherwise these mobs will realize, hey, you used us as pawns to destroy the country and to kill these people off. You used us as pawns. They kill them off because they will realize, they'll wake up one day and realize and then turn on the dictator and destroy. And they don't want that. So they destroy all these groups that are going around creating violence and chaos. This is what they're telling these people, that globalism means diversity. Nationalism means Nazism, when it doesn't. Nationalism, as I just explained to you, what a country and why you fight for your country, and why people better their own countries because of the example of another. Hey, in that country, women are free and women go to college, and there's less crime in that country and they're more prosperous. Why don't we adopt capitalism like that country? Why don't we change the government? And you have your example. That's like shining city on a hill that Reagan talked about. You have an example out there, and it's been the best, most prosperous example. So I say adopt capitalism and forego socialism and go for smaller government. Because if you have smaller government, then government isn't taking more money out of your pocket, and you have more money and you can start your own business because there's less regulations and there's less government taking money out of your own pocket. And if you're a company, you can hire more people. But they're giving all these people, these Antifa people, this idea, nationalism is bad. But Antifa, speak to Antifa, your own heroes were nationalists. Gandhi was a nationalist. Nelson Mandela was a nationalist. Che Guevara was a nationalist. He also killed all the homosexuals and raped women and murdered a lot of people. Fidel Castro and his brother Raul, they were also nationalists. Of course, if you went against the communist rule, what the dictator said, there's films of them putting people in front of firing squads, shooting them just because of independent thought. That's dangerous, but you're for these people and you want communism. But this is what happens under communism, which is socialism, which is globalism. It's another word for it. You're going to have a party of unelected people. They're going to rule you make laws and decide everything for you. Decide whether there are too many people in the world, we need to kill a segment off because it's not good for the environment. So we're going to have to kill a bunch of people off. Like the EU, it's an unelected body of government who basically decided that Alfie Envis and Charlie Gard had to die. Their parents couldn't even bring them home to die at home. There was treatment outside in other countries that said, come, bring him here. They had the money for it, and they could have been healed, but they kept them in England and made them die. And at the same time Alfie Evans was dying, the Prince William, was having his third child, and everybody was cheering, and the lovely, beautiful baby came out, and she came out like she didn't even have that baby. I don't know what happened. It's like she was wearing a baby bump. She looked so damn good, and she was wearing spiked heels. And several months before, actually a month before Harry proposed to Meghan Markle, who's half African descent, Prince William says that, oh, there's too many people in the world, just like his grandfather says all the time, except he wants to come back as a disease and kill 3/4 of the population, because isn't that wonderful? Wonderful. But he's also related to actual Nazis. That's sure, Nazis are bad. Listen to Prince Philip. Anyway, so William, who we thought was the shining light, and we were hoping, oh, why doesn't he take over after the Queen? He would be wonderful. He said, too many people in the world, and we're going to start with Africa. Africa needs to decrease its population, which is interesting because I think in 1985, his own parents sponsored Live Aid. Because of the famine in Africa, all the people were dying in Africa, who were losing the cradle of life. Ethiopia, where mankind, we believe mankind sprung from, were dying. And so the world chipped in. It was actually the Western world that chipped in and saved Africa. So you hate the white people, but it's really those Western countries where there's a lot of white people that chipped in and saved Africa. And now you've got the son of these people, of Diana, who led the Live Aid event to save Africa. He's saying, oh, we need to decrease the population of Africa. There's too many, they own a lot of land in Africa, by the way, a lot of beautiful real estate. They own the entire royal family. The Queen alone owns 12% of the best real estate in the world. And in total, it's about maybe north of 20% of the best real estate in the world. And it's nice to see the animals. You don't want it too crowded with all those African people. So he wants to start with Africa. Very good. Excellent. And then a month later, Harry saves the day and gets engaged to a girl that's, oh, no, they're not racist. Don't call them racist. Don't hate them. Clearly they're not. They're going to have a grandchild that is, well, a quarter African. They couldn't be racist. No, but she's related to him. So she's not exactly the same, is she, as the people in Africa. Very interesting. So these people are all globalists. So nationalism, so they've given you this idea that nationalism is bad and globalism is good. It's because Soros and these big companies want the TPP, want to dissolve the borders, are using Antifa and all these groups as minions to strike fear into the hearts of every Trump supporter, every patriot, every person who wants to fight for a free country, that there be a beacon of freedom in the world. They have implanted the idea and twisted things. Diversity, no. Diversity, well, all right, eradicating, white people are evil, except for the white Democrats, okay? Except for the white Democrats who call racist first. If you're a white Democrat and you call racist first, it means they're the racist and you're clearly not a racist because you called racist first. That's how the game is played. So they've made you believe that nationalism is bad, but the only thing that's going to save the world is if countries retain its borders. Because if one country is miserable and the dictator there is miserable, and there's another country that is the beacon of freedom that has good ideas, then the people can say, we don't want this dictator anymore. We want to live like they do. We want to be prosperous. Let's change our country. Basically, you should change it to capitalist. Let's change our country so we also have these freedoms. Otherwise, when you have an unelected body, that's a dictatorship. That's what Hitler was. That's what Stalin was. That's what Mao was. That's what Pol Pot was. That's what Hugo Chavez was. There's another hero and nationalist who destroyed his country and stole billions of dollars from his own people. That's what Fidel Castro was. Those were all dictators. And there's many more dictators around the world. Oh, there's so many. But you don't really get it. You don't want a dictator like that. Trump isn't a dictator. He's actually working through the Congress and the Senate. He wants the Congress, he wants the checks and balances kept. That's why we have three bodies of government. We've got the judicial, we've got the legislative, and we've got the executive branch. And there's three checks there. That prevents the president from becoming a dictator. That prevents the president from saying something like, if you don't vote the way I want you to vote, to the legislative branch, which is supposed to pass the laws and holds the purse strings, I've got a pen and a phone and I'm just going to do it anyway. And they just applauded. Oh, you just deballed us. You deballed us, and we'll pay, because we hold the purse strings, but you know what? Anything you want, we'll give you. We'll give you, because you're just going to take it anyway, and we don't clap for you. We'll be called racist. So you see the difference. They have hypnotized you, brainwashed you, whatever you call it, into making you think the word nationalism is bad because of Hitler, when all these other dictators were nationalists too, even Gandhi and even Nelson Mandela, nationalists as well. All your heroes are nationalists. But you want a dictator. You want an unelected body. If we can't have an election where we can trust that the ballot that is filled out by an American citizen, because yes, we might as well give ballots to everyone in the world. If you have an open border, give ballots to everyone in the world and have them fill them out. And they can vote for who they want to be president of the United States and senator and congressman and everybody in the entire world. That's a good way to do it. No, we need citizens voting. We need to know that it's an honest vote, that people are not voting because they're afraid. Somebody is voting under duress, pressuring them to vote one way or another. That the votes are counted honestly. It isn't happening. It's not happening. They're destroying the votes. They're making up the votes. They made up the voter registrations. This is insanity. And we are going to lose our country in 2 years. No, Trump will not get elected unless a magnificent change happens. But how can we have people? We're going to have make sure we have people at every poll that honestly are on one side and honestly are on the other side. Honest people that are checking to make sure everything is done honestly. Not people say, oh, yes, I am. I'm a Republican. Oh, yes, sure, I'm a Democrat. How do you even know if anybody... There's no honesty anymore. We're going down a road where there will be no elections, no free elections. You are going down the road of a dictator. You're going to have an unelected body of government. You're going to have an unelected dictator. And at his whim, he's going to decide whether you live or die. And I would suggest studying looking up Mao and Stalin and Pol Pot, not just Hitler. He's just one of them. Look at all of them, at what they did and what the whim of a dictator does. South America is socialist. The Nazis entered South America. They escaped South America. That's where they went. And that's where it's military. They're all in fatigues and there's dictators. They just kill people and shoot people at whim. People go missing. They don't know what happens to them. This happens in South America all the time. If they know you're American, you have to basically disguise yourself. Don't look American. It's not because America's prosperous that these people are poor. If these leaders and these people leading them are good, they would never oppress their people, even if they were poor. Well, I would like to say, look at the example of Jesus Christ, but nobody likes Jesus Christ anymore. But would he have done that to the poor? Read about Jesus. Actually, read some of the stuff he says is actually really good about the poor. And so, if you're a good person, whether you believe in God or not, it's not. If one country came in and took all your gold, and then you left your people poor, would you put your people in front of firing squads, throw them in dungeons, so they're never seen or heard from again? Would you oppress your people? Would you take the food away from your people? Would you do that because some other country can? No, not if you would do everything you could to regrow the food in the land and regrow your economy in some way. You would do something to help your people. No, it's because the dictators are rotten and socialism is rotten because they've adopted socialism, who sets the prices and the quantities of everything in the country. And like in Venezuela, the bakery, oh, no, you can only charge so much for bread, but we can't afford to buy the flour to make the bread, let alone pay the people, the workers. So the bakery goes out of business and everybody's starving. That's socialism in a nutshell. That's it. That's communist right in a nutshell. Only so much is made, and it's great, it only costs so much. But then the people can't afford to stay in business in any way, shape, or form, and people end up starving. So this is the danger of the Antifa crowd that attacked poor Tucker Carlson's home and his wife. And I feel I had a nightmare about it. It's awful that these people are so brainwashed at the word nationalism that they think it means Nazi, when it actually means socialism, which is communism. And that's what they want. And the globalists are organizing these people and paying them because they want all the borders dissolved, because these 1%ers, the people that they hate the most, the wealthy of the wealthy that they hate the absolute the most, are the ones that are using them as pawns. And in the end, these pawns that are crazed rioters that are striking terror into us, so like in Mao's China and Stalin's, people ended up committing suicide. They couldn't take it anymore. They couldn't take the fear. These gangs out there, these pawns, little do they know that they will be killed off. They're doing the bidding of the wealthiest. The Democrat Party was formed as the party of slave owners, slave traders, KKK, and Jim Crow South. Do you think those people would lie to you and about who really is the racist? And keep you on the plantation? Don't you think those are the people that would lie to you? Yeah, I do. I do. Okay, I don't know what I'm going to call this video, but it's got a lot of good stuff in it. Anyway, see you later. Bye-bye.